Hey there, Ariel at Small Yard Flowers. Today we are talking about soil blocks. Soil stacking, soil blocking. So, for those of you who don't know what a soil block is, this is a soil block. Looks like a little brownie made out of dirt. But it is not edible, except for your plants. So today we're going to talk about how we make them, why we make them. I just broke that one. Toss that back there. So instead of using plastic cells like you would normally use for seed starting, like these, we make soil blocks. Plastic cells are fine, but they're kind of like a one-use plastic. You can use them for a few years, but they break really easily, and then they just go in the landfill. So we don't want to use those anymore. What we like to do is make our blocks because they go straight in the ground. So the pros and cons to blocks. Cons to blocks would be it takes a little more time, but the pros is that it can go straight into the ground. There's less root disturbance for the seedlings. You get some air pruning between the blocks in the tray, and your plants will be happier, and you'll have less plastic on your farm or in your garden. So supplies we need for soil blocks would be, first of all, soil blockers. A soil block that makes these 1.5 by 1.5 blocks. There's 5 here. There's also these little ones you can get. There's 20 little blocks in here. So this is if you're going to start really small seeds and you're going to bump them up into bigger soil blocks. But I usually stick with these because I like to sow my seed in them and then leave them, take care of them under lights or in the greenhouse, and then these go straight into the ground when they're ready. So these are the ones we're going to be using. We need a few ingredients. My soil blocks are made of 3 things. Cocoa coir, which is a peat-free alternative. We try not to use peat here. Actually, we never use peat here on the farm because peat is not a renewable resource for the earth. So we use cocoa coir, which is a byproduct of the coconut industry. We use earthworm castings, which kind of acts like the glue for these soil blocks, because that's the trick. You need to have a mixture that holds together well and doesn't fall apart. So earthworm castings, kind of sticky, it's got some nutrients in there, feed your seedlings. And then we also need vermiculite. So this is my vermiculite here. This is going to kind of add some aeration to the soil, beef it up a little bit, and it's a really easy combination. It's just 3 equal parts. 1 part vermiculite, 1 part cocoa coir, 1 part castings. So the first thing I do is mix those together into a separate bin. I use just this quart container, and I'm just going to do 1 of each for now. 1 there, earthworm castings here, and then 1 vermiculite. Now it's really important to mix this together really well and put a lot of water in there. We want it pretty wet for it to hold together. If it's too dry, they're going to fall apart. So get it nice and wet, wetter than you probably think it should be. Kind of like brownie batter, should be like that. Alright, that's pretty good. And I can tell it's good because I can hold it like this, and when I squeeze it, a little bit of water comes out. Kind of like a damp sponge. So these are good. I can kind of hold into a ball like this. So this is ready. You also need a tray. So we do have plastic trays, and I buy the really strong ones because I know they're going to last several years. I buy the strong ones, and I have a double layer. I have this layer that has some holes in the bottom. You can buy them like this or drill your own holes. And then I have this layer, which when I do the watering, I fill maybe a 1/2 inch of this with water and set this on top, and the water leaches through those holes and waters your soil blocks from the bottom. So that's how I like to do it. So we have our tray here. We have our soil. And you take your soil blocker And you're going to mash that soil in to the blocks. And you really want to pack it in there. You don't want any air bubbles because then they can collapse. So you really smooth it in with your hands. Like this. You're going to line it up in your tray. And you're going to kind of gently push down and then expel it like that. Give it a little wiggle so it lets go. And then you've got your first row of soil blocks. Also in this soil blocker there's a little divot, so it automatically puts a little hole at the top of each block. If you don't want those, you can take those divots out so you have flat blocks in case you're doing really tiny seeds and you're just surface sowing. Alright, let's do that again. Put it there, and you can just cozy it on up to that other row. Give it some wiggles. Alright. So I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to get about 84 blocks in here. If you were to use the really little one, you can get up to like 200. So that's just the difference if you're going to use the little one. So I'm going to get cracking on this and show you some close-ups, and you can do some soil blocking yourself. Here we go. Now that we've got our full tray made, it's ready to sow your seeds. These are already pretty soaking wet, so there's no need to water after you sow. Just sow it, cover it with the right amount of soil that seed requires, and put a little plastic dome on top. This is going to keep the humidity nice, get the right temperature in there for your seeds to germinate. And then when it comes time to watering, once they've germinated and they're soaking up water, like these guys here, they need to be watered. My 2-tray system. So you can take these out. This tray has holes in it. This tray doesn't. I'm just going to put half an inch, maybe 1/4 of an inch of water in there, depending on how many blocks I have. I just have a half tray here. And when I set this in here, the water goes through those holes and goes all the way around all of these blocks, and those blocks suck up the water from the bottom. And any leftover water you have, because you don't want to drown them, so like after half hour or an hour, go down, go look at your seeds. Any excess water, just drain those off like this, and you're good. Put them back under the lights or in the greenhouse and keep growing. Hey-o!